It is 11 p.m. where I'm at, and it is time to go live to answer questions on the Buddha and the Badass. So, hi everyone. You guys are the first people to show up. I mean, that's assuming you actually showed up. Some of you may have just stumbled upon this accidentally. So it's 11 p.m. where I am. It's 11 a.m. in New York, and this is my Instagram Live to answer questions from those of you who follow me on my new book, The Buddha and the Badass. So first, quick advertisement. That's the book. Today is the last day to get the book and get the incredible bonuses MindValley's including in it. But why I wanted to do this live is, other than the blatant promotional opportunities, is to help the vast number of you who have already grabbed your first copy, to shed some light on how to best use this book and to give you a tour of what you can expect. So one of the unique things about this book, oh hey, I see Blendon in London says, I'm reading it right now. Well, prove it. What page are you at? And Yogini from Malaysia said she just bought it on Apple Books. That's fantastic. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for supporting me. So it's been incredible, the number of people who bought this book. My publisher told me that we should be happy to get around 8,000 people who bought the book in its first week. We're at about 12,000. We're hitting 13,000 right now, which apparently is really good given the crazy world that we're in. And Bonish said she came here because of the video experts say I made in a grocery store. Fantastic. Hi, Rizwai from Pakistan. Jessica Munoz. Dilip Inspires. Dilip, I've seen you here before. Thanks for coming back. Jeff Poyero in Thailand. So many great faces here. Okay, so I'm going to try to do something I've never really done before. What I'm trying to do here is bring up the questions that you guys had submitted to me. And that does not work, okay? Scratch that. I have two phones. This is exactly why I have two phones. So I'm going to use this to be live on Instagram, and I have my iPhone, which is what I'm going to use to talk about the book and to answer the questions that came in from all of you guys over there. It is Saturday night where I'm at. I haven't actually been out or celebrated a weekend or even hung out with friends in about 3 months because I'm still under quarantine. This looks like a white cup. It could be innocent tea. This could also be a gin and tonic. I'm not saying. All I'm saying is it's Saturday night. I'm lonely. I have nothing else to do. So I'm on Instagram Live with you guys answering questions from my book. That tastes good. Okay, let's go on with the questions. And I got so many great questions. Now, the first, I actually see a really good one there. How did I come up with the title for the book? Okay, so this is a funny question, right? How many of you here saw me on Jay Shetty's podcast? So I got a lot of love for that appearance on. Oh, hi Greta, nice to see you there. So I got a love for that appearance on Jay Shetty's podcast. So I was working with Jay Shetty, and Jay Shetty's team created a video with me around like a year back. So there was a lady on Jay Shetty's team who is a script writer, and she scripts out videos for people that Jay works with, and she's brilliant. And her name is Heidi, and she'd gone through all of my work. And there was something in my first book, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind, that grabbed her. It was a reference to Ken Wilber's essay on egolessness, and there I summarized his essay by talking about the concept of the Buddha and the Badass and tying that to Martin Luther King's work, because that's what I like doing. I like cross-referencing different philosophers. And so Heidi produced a video with me, 5 minutes. It's me talking about the concept of the Buddha and the Badass, and that video got a ton of views. So this book was never supposed to be called The Buddha and the Badass. This book was originally supposed to be called The Code of the Extraordinary Team. And halfway through writing the book, I decided I don't want to write a book on team management. That's just not what I do anymore. Like, I'm obsessed with personal growth. So I lost interest in the original book that the publisher signed me up to do. And I decided to write the book I wanted to write. So I scrapped my book midway. This book was supposed to have been out last year. I scrapped the entire book midway, and I wrote this book. Nothing to do with running a team, although if you do read this book, it will help you run a team. This book is on It's on running your life, really, running your career, running your business, growing as an entrepreneur. And when I think back, what made me scrap the original book and start a completely new book midstream? It was 18 months ago when I made that shift. And I realized I was listening to my intuition. I mean, right now, in the presence of quarantine, if I'd written the original book my publisher had asked me to write, The Code of the Extraordinary Team, nobody would care because companies are not operating in the same way. Teams are now remote. The rules of running a team have completely changed. So listening to my intuition, I wrote a different book, The Buddha and the Badass. So key lesson there, you always want to follow that inner voice, that intuition. Now let me get to the questions. Thank you, Miracle by Momita, for the nice words. Thank you, Africa Matoris. Thank you, Enrique. So Enrique said, what are your goals? I have so many, Enrique. I have a life book. And my life book, I was actually working on it last night, has hundreds of pages of goals. And they're all referenced. I'm now porting my life book into a database so I can organize my goals in a different way because I'm a geek that way. But yeah, I'm really, really, really into goal setting. So let me pull up the questions. I keep trying to pull this up and getting distracted by your amazing comments. Thank you, Wish Watuk, for saying you like my accent. Can you guys even guess what accent this is? Oh, somebody asked, how did you bring MindValley from idea to reality? That's a fun story. I might share that. But again, let me figure out how to bring out your questions. This is when I miss my social media team. Fantastic. Okay, we got several hundred questions that came in. When will there be a French version? Je ne sais quoi. I think that means I don't know in French. But typically, like 8 months after a book comes out, if it does well in the US, foreign publishers basically bid for the rights for the book. So The Code of the Extraordinary Mind got translated in 25 languages. I'm pretty sure Buddha and the Badass will also do 25 languages, 25 to 30 languages. So for sure it's going to be coming out in French. Plus, MindValley is now out in French. Danielle said, can you speak Malay? Ya, memang. Saya boleh cakap bahasa Melayu. Malay is my second language. I studied French. Taiba is asking me, I studied French for 3 years and I forgot everything. And thank you, Kristen, for your kind words and the 6-phase meditation. Samira said, do you speak Hindi? I wish. You know, Samira, I was just talking to my son today and I was saying, I wish I had been more brought up in my Indian heritage. I was telling my son, there are 800 movies made in India every year compared to 250 made in the United States. I wish I spoke Hindi because that would have opened up my life to so much additional culture. Sadly, I don't. I speak Malay because although I am Indian, I was raised in Malaysia. My grandparents left India in 1939. Drew said, what are your feelings towards the American protests? I love them. That is amazing. I lived in America for 9 years. I could never understand how America can have so much systemic racism just baked in and people walk around it like it doesn't exist. So I'm so excited by what I see happening in America right now. I'm so delighted by the protests. If I was there, I would be marching with them 100%. Patrick, nice to see you. So, questions on the Buddha and the Badass. By the way, if you guys read a book, if you guys have read the book, definitely go. I would so appreciate if you'd leave a review on Amazon. That would be amazing. Unless you really, really, really hate me, then just send me nasty emails, but don't make that public. Okay, so somebody said this. Why did you write this book? So, have you guys ever heard of Maslow's Pyramid? Let me pull up a picture of Maslow's Pyramid. Okay? So, if you have heard of Maslow's Pyramid, that's what it looks like. So I have a theory about Maslow's Pyramid. Right at the bottom of Maslow's Pyramid is safety and physiological needs. So it says that at the core basis, people need their physiological needs met. Now, what this means is you need food, you need shelter, you need clothing. One level above, once you have that met, one level above, you need safety. And today, in most parts of the world, I mean, unless you're in a country like Syria or Venezuela, most people have safety. Physiological and safety are provided by the basic functioning of government. But there's a level above that, and that is love and belonging. And that's where the modern world is kind of messed up. If you look at studies, including a study from Harvard, loneliness is up 300% in the Western world. And so you go 1 degree higher in Maslow's pyramid, love and belonging. And where do you get that from? Facebook doesn't provide love. Facebook, the biggest social network in the world, actually creates the opposite. A study by Stanford showed that when you get on Facebook, your feelings of empathy and compassion actually shrink. You're more stressed out. You're more fearful of the world. You buy into fake news. Facebook is horrible. It's one of the reasons why I'm moving all MindValley groups away from Facebook onto our own learning platform. So who then provides love and belonging? Now, the funny thing is, love and belonging are some of the most important things for wellness. When I started MindValley, I wanted to elevate human health, human wellness, human happiness. And the funny thing is, one of the number one way to do all of that is love and belonging. So a Harvard study by Ed Diener showed that the number one thing that correlates with happiness is the strength of your social connections. And then there was the Blue Zone study, which said that the number one thing that increases lifespan in these areas in the world called blue zones, where there are about 10 times the number of people living to 100 than in America, that number one thing is community. And then let's talk about even functioning at work. Gallup polls show that if you have a best friend at work, you're 7 times more engaged in your job. So whether it's your career or it is your wellness, your health, your longevity, or it's your happiness level, we need love and belonging. No one provides that. So the Buddha and the Badass looks at that layer, love and belonging, and shows you how to structure that in your life. But it goes beyond. The next thing is esteem. And here, what I talk about is a concept of how we can raise our esteem, but not just our sense of self-esteem. That means our sense of pride and love for ourselves, but the esteem of the people around us. And that is a very interesting aspect of the book. So that's the second thing this book does. The third thing is self-actualization. Self-actualization is when you discover and get to know who you really are. To be self-actualized means to pursue personal growth. The book shows you how to bring personal growth into your career. So now we have those 3 levels of Maslow that governments completely forget. And what I'm trying to do is say, look, what should be providing us these 3 levels is our work. If you're an entrepreneur, you can engineer this into your business. If you're a boss or a CEO, you can engineer this for your employees, and you can change the way human beings develop by bringing in love and connection, esteem, and self-actualization. Now, the funny thing is, there's a 4th level. After Maslow came up with his pyramid, he went back to the drawing board and he realized he'd missed out on a 4th level. And that 4th level is self-transcendence. And this means to go beyond yourself. Self-transcendence is when you've already spent so much time developing yourself, you've unlocked your gifts, you now want to give back to the world. Self-transcendence is the badass. Self-actualization is the Buddha. When you put them both together, this is when you start operating in the world in a completely different way. Now, I believe that businesses today, that entrepreneurs today need to provide love and belonging, esteem, self-actualization, self-transcendence for themselves, because your government isn't going to support you, and for the people that they lead. This is what the Buddha and the Badass is about. So this book takes different philosophies from Ken Wilber's integral philosophy to Maslow to the philosophy of Martin Luther King, fits that into a mold, and the book is written around these ideas. So that is why I wrote the book. It's because I'm sick of business as usual. I don't think the world needs more businesses designed to make you buy more stuff you don't need. But the world needs more businesses that can change human nature and change the way the world functions. That is what the Buddha and the Badass is about. So I'm just reading the questions. There are so many interesting questions here. There are 482 people viewing. I like what you're saying, Edgar. Scott Barry Kaufman has an updated Maslow's Pyramid, I think. Might be worth a read. I'll definitely check that out. Sebastian said, is there a version in Spanish? It is most definitely coming out, Sebastian. A message for teenagers. Well, one of the most interesting, well, the Buddha and the Badass is not really for teens. Code of the Extraordinary Mind has been adapted into a program for schools. So this is actually being taught now in schools. Now, if you want to get the digital version of this program for schools, it's completely free while the world is under quarantine. Just go to mindvalley.com/teens/extraordinary. So go ahead, it's completely free. Several really leading edge schools have brought the Code of the Extraordinary Mind into their curriculum. Right here in Malaysia, Taylor's International School is doing it. And they're an amazing school, very progressive. And there are other schools around the world who are experimenting with this as well. Meta said, loved BE for teens. I'm so glad you like that, Meta. Yes, there's going to be a lot more programs for teenagers coming from MindValley. MindValley for teens will be a thing. It just got pushed back. A lot of our filming got pushed back because of quarantine. But we're going to catch up in 3 or 4 months. Right now we're focusing on other aspects of the business. So our teens division is going to be booming really soon. Serene from Malaysia said, why is the book not available in MPH? Serene, I was in MPH today buying a book for my kid. I don't know why, but Malaysia doesn't carry any of my books. I live in Malaysia. MindValley is based here. But MindValley is an American company, so most Malaysians don't know me at all for MindValley. In Malaysia, they know me as the guy fighting Nestle, the Nestle activist. I'm not known for MindValley. So, if you've started reading the book, or maybe you've read the Code of the Extraordinary Mind, I would love to hear your questions. Now, somebody said, what is the next quest on MindValley? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. So, the next big program that I'm launching, is Be Extraordinary at Work. So Be Extraordinary at Work, it's my first entrepreneurship program. I'm so excited about it. It's going to be coming out July 2nd. And it's live coaching. So basically, it's 6 weeks, 2 hours a week. I'm live on Zoom training over 1,000 people. But until midnight tonight, PST, California time, you can get Be Extraordinary at Work completely free if you buy 5 copies of the book. This is just like an ethical bribe that authors do when they want to drive up book sales in their first week. Oh, Marisha there said the book is coming to Kinokuniya in Malaysia. So go to mindvalley.com/Buddha Badass, get 5 copies of the book. The next MindValley program, Be Extraordinary at Work, is going to be yours free. So I'm really excited about that. I cannot wait to get that in your hands. Especially if you are an entrepreneur, you will love Be Extraordinary at Work. Why aren't people acknowledging you here in Malaysia? I do get acknowledged in Malaysia. It's just that the general public in Malaysia, I guess maybe because of the language or whatever, they don't really know MindValley, right? MindValley was designed as an American company. We started in New York. 54% of our customers are American. 80% of our major customers are North American or British. And so I guess because of the way we speak, the language we speak, it tends to be more American in our communication. So unless you're ingrained in American culture, you may not really get the nuances of MindValley. Oh, somebody said, why fight Nestle? What we focus our attention on, that's bullshit. Dude, you got to be able to stand up and protest things which are wrong for the future of humanity. Protesting, standing up to companies which are lying in advertising is not focusing on the negative. It's creating change. That is the essence of the Buddha and the Badass. In fact, that question just illustrates why I wrote the book in the first place. Because I get pissed off at kumbaya culture. What I mean by that is this extreme green culture that says, oh, I'm just going to meditate and focus and visualize and hope for a better world and work on my yoga postures and the world will sort itself out. You do not do that. The concept of the Buddha and the Badass is that yes, you work on your spiritual core, but you fucking get out there and change the world. You fight for what's right. You challenge the status quo. So the very reason I wrote this book is because I believe every entrepreneur needs to be an activist. Everyone who is an activist, everyone who's an entrepreneur, everyone who's working on changing the world has to embrace their inner Buddha. The two go together. Yes, somebody said action activists. In 2016, I read about Trump pulling America out of the treaties that were being signed by nations around the world to limit humanity's carbon footprint, right? To start seriously to start looking at global warming seriously. And I changed my title to CEO activist because I don't want to run just another company selling you education. I want MindValley to stand for something better. If you're in MindValley, you're whether you know it or not, you're going to end up being an activist. You're going to end up thinking about the world in a larger sense. You're going to end up driven to improve humanity and not just your bank balance. That is baked into our DNA as a company. It's also a key message in this book. Today, one of my team members, actually Greta, she's on this live. She shared a quote from the book, and the quote says this: "You don't have to save the world. Just don't fuck it up for the next generation." So I'm being overly dramatic. I didn't use the F word in the book. I used it in the audiobook though. But the reason behind that quote is to say that no one is asking you, telling you to go out there and protest if you don't want to. That's your thing. But in the businesses you build, in the companies that you create, we have to think beyond business as usual. We have to create products, services that actually improve humanity's existence. The United Nations has an incredible framework you can look at. It's called the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Google it. It's called UN SDGs. And the United Nations have been working with youth organizations to encourage young people to start looking at the UN SDGs and figuring out how can we start companies that work on these sustainable development goals. Now, if you ask me what are the sustainable development goals, they include, the number one thing actually is education. These are things that the poor people in the world, the people who don't have what many of us might have, really need. Clean water, clean air, education, safety, women's rights. And there are ways you can inject these values into your company. You could be running another company that sells a widget, or you could be running a cupcake factory. It doesn't matter. You can still support the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And in that way, leave a more positive mark in the world. I see this all the time when I meet entrepreneurs who are truly building businesses that are becoming legendary. Okay, let's go on to more questions. All right, so I want to see I would love to see some really deep questions. Get me philosophical. Never mind the fact that it's Saturday night. Okay, so someone says we need to start holding the UN accountable for these goals. No, you missed the point. If you believe that, firstly, the UN gets a lot of slack. I have so much respect for the UN. The UN, if you want to hold the UN accountable, get your country to disband their military and give that budget to the UN. Watch what happens. The UN right now has its hands tied because idiot politicians blame them for everything. Look at Trump pulling funds from the WHO. So support the UN. I believe everybody should be supporting the UN before their local government, before their local politician. If we did that, we'd be supporting each other in a much better way, and the world would be way better off. There would be less Trumps, less Nigel Farage, less Bolsonaro, and the UN would actually be able to get things done. So don't give me that let's hold the UN responsible bullshit. I stand up for the UN anytime. You can see I'm very passionate about certain issues. How do you put Nestle out of business? I'm not trying to put anyone out of business. What I'm trying to do is get Nestle, a company that claims it wants to stand for human health, to actually start telling the truth in their advertising. Their advertising is blatantly filled with lies. When companies start peddling lies for a really long time, what happens is cognitive dissonance. The employees start believing the lies. They start deluding themselves. Nestle has brainwashed Malaysians, for example, to believe that a drink called Milo, which is 40% sugar, should be given to kids twice a day for them to function as a health drink, mind you. Now, someone called Bobby Unbox is saying the UN funded Pol Pot and Khmer Rouge. No, I actually went to Cambodia. I went on a historical tour. I interviewed journalists. The UN did not fund Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge. So please, let's get that bullshit out of the picture. Stop watching the One America Network or Fox News. Okay, so a lot of people are simply asking about the book being available in their country. It's coming. Unfortunately, just the way publishing works right now, it takes a while for even books to ship. Some of my friends in Japan were trying to get this book. The shipping price was just insane. So what I suggest you do is to get the book on Amazon, on Kindle, on iBooks, or on any other digital reader. Somebody said the problem is not the UN, but the people in the UN and the WHO. No, those people are freaking amazing. I just spoke at the UN 2 years ago. They are incredibly talented men and women. Don't believe what your national governments are saying. But let's get off the UN topic, okay? You know where I stand. I will support the UN anytime over local government. So, Sankes Kusha said, what is your motivation behind this book? Is it something personal? Yes. As I said, I'd love to see the way business as usual changes. And one of the things I want to do, I do have many different goals for bringing this book into the world. And one of the most interesting goals I have is to change the way entrepreneurs think about their business. So I'm a big believer in intuition, okay? And I think that there are two amazing skills that when you bring into your work can magnify your impact. So as I've brought these skills into my work, what I found is that I've been able to be ultra productive. What I mean by this is I actually can do things around 10 times faster than a normal person. But it comes from two different things and anybody can learn it. The first skill that you want to bring into your work is called intuition. You want to learn to access altered states, to be able to source ideas and clarity of thinking so you know exactly what to do. Daniel Goleman wrote a great book on this called Altered Traits. And he says that there are 4 ways to get into altered states of mind, to tap into the ideas, the feelings, the insights. So you can do pharmacology, you can do neurotraining, you can do breath work. The most important one is meditation. So I'm a big believer in meditation, but everyone talks about that. But what I believe in is meditation to source ideas. When I was in Tom Bilyeu's impact theory, so Tom Bilyeu started Quest Nutrition, $1 billion company. And I remember asking Tom, do you meditate? And he goes, yeah, but then my mind gets distracted and I start thinking about business ideas. I'm like, but Tom, that's the point. Meditation isn't about clearing your mind. You can use it to source ideas. And Tom goes, well, it's interesting you say that because 80% of my ideas come when I'm in that state. And Tom even gives it a name. He calls it thinkitation. So how about that? Thinkitation. So intuition, as you bring that into your life, everything in terms of how you work can explode. So you start to see the future. You start to figure out the new products and services to bring in. But then you got to bring in that second pillar. Now that second pillar is harder to explain. I study with a lot of spiritual masters, and one of the things that I've learned from these spiritual masters is that if you truly master spirituality, I remember asking a Chinese master once, what happens when you truly master the art of advanced spirituality? And he says, it's really simple. Life just gets easier. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, what happens is that you have a thought, life just flows towards that. You don't have much problems. You don't face negativity as much as people. Life just gets easier. That is what happens when you're aligned with your spirituality. I gave that a name. I call it bending reality. And that's the second pillar. So this book really is designed to give you methods to raise your intuition and then to bend reality. When you put both of those together, you function in your job in a very unique way. You function as an entrepreneur in a really unique way. Now, if you want to hear a really powerful example of this, let me ask you this question. I want you to write in comments now. Who's the best CEO you can think of, living or dead, of the last, let's just say, 20 years? The greatest business leader you can think of, who's created a profound contribution to the world. Who would you say, last 20 years? I think there's a lag time between me speaking and the comments coming up. Okay, Steve Jobs, great. Sarah said Steve Jobs. Amazing. Mercado said Steve Jobs. So 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5 said Steve Jobs. 5 out of 6 said Steve Jobs. Then 1 said Bill Gates and 1 said Elon Musk. I've actually met Bill Gates and I've met Elon Musk. I never got to meet Jobs, but I've had close encounters with Bill Gates and Elon Musk. I used to work for Bill Gates in 1998. But let's talk about Jobs, because 4 out of 6 of the first 6 people said Jobs. Do you ever remember Jobs' Stanford address? He said in 2005, giving a commencement speech at Stanford University, listen to your heart and intuition. They already know who you are to become. Steve Jobs was huge on intuition. And in Walter Isaacson's biography of Jobs, Walter Isaacson said Jobs believed in prana, or understanding the world through intuition. He believed that there were Indian sages and mystics who had this ability, and he was one of them. Intuition was a key component of Jobs. He used this in his life. But beyond that, Jobs was also huge on this concept of bending reality. Let me get something for you guys. So remember I said the second pillar is bending reality? I started using that word in around 2008. When Jobs' biography came out, I believe it was 2011, the word bend reality was in that biography 3 times in relation to Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs believed in bending reality. He believed that he had the ability to influence the world. Now, why do I say that? He didn't speak about it openly, but Steve Jobs' favorite book was this book, Autobiography of a Yogi. He read this every year. Shortly before he died, his biographer, Walter Isaacson, said, Jobs, show me what's on your iPad. And there was just one book, and it was this book. When he died, at his funeral, everybody got a copy of this book. Okay, so Steve Jobs did travel to India. Did he practice Kriya Yoga? I don't know. He did meditate. He did travel to India. Now, if you read this book, this entire book is about bending reality. It's about shifting the fabric of what the ancient mystics called Maya, or the illusion of the world. So I'm currently reading this book. I'm reading it for the 3rd time. I read this book every 10 years. Jobs read this book every year. This book is written quite a while ago, around 80 years ago, but every chapter is a story of intuitive understanding and bending reality. So those 2 principles, when you bring them into your life, into your career, and you don't just have to be an entrepreneur, things move crazy, crazy, crazy fast. So what I try to do is I try to feel into, so here's how I operate as an entrepreneur. I feel into what I believe the energy of the world needs me to create. I feel into that. And every now and then I get a piece of guidance and a piece of guidance and a piece of guidance. MindValley didn't emerge from a business plan. It emerged from step-by-step guidance. And then I attempt to shift reality to make that happen. Now, the physical manifestations of that can be different. It could be a beautiful office. It could be an incredible office. It could be a great app. It could be a business failure when I go off track. And I try to do that as consistently as I can. I certainly haven't mastered it, but I've been able to do it at a fairly consistent basis, and I'm getting better and better and better at it. And so what I'm seeing is my business success is getting better and better and better. And now in terms of MindValley, we're aiming for an IPO because we've already done incredibly well as a company in tiny little Malaysia with no venture capital. We're racing towards many of the other great ed tech companies who have raised hundreds of millions. And so we feel blessed. I cannot even explain it. Like, we are just sitting on incredible luck. But part of that, I believe, is beyond the physical in terms of what we are doing. And that's what I try to unpack for other entrepreneurs in this book. So if you're reading this book, the important thing is you do not read this book from cover to cover. All I want you to do is to read the intro and then decide what chapter most resonates with you. So, oh yeah, somebody is saying, what book is it? Everything is backwards. It's called The Buddha and the Badass. Check it out. The Buddha and the Badass. This is my first book, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. This is The Buddha and the Badass. I like my books to look radically different, so these do not look like they're part of the same family. So check this out. And I think you will really, 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 really like it. Now, if you get the book today from mindvalley.com/Buddha Badass, what you will also get is MindValley's biggest program of the year, completely free. It is called Be Extraordinary at Work. You can read about it at mindvalley.com/work, but do not buy it. Get 5 copies of The Buddha and the Badass, and you will get Be Extraordinary at Work completely free. So I'd love to see more questions. I have more time. I still have a little bit of drink in this mysterious cup. Somebody said my voice is very helpful. Thank you. Somebody said, do you follow any specific religion? Absolutely not. I think it's okay to have a preference for religion, but I believe if you're going to follow a religion, study everything, follow everything. You can decide that your preference is Jesus, just like sometimes my preference is pepperoni pizza, but don't stay tied to one religion. I believe it can be bad for your spirituality to simply go down one path without opening yourself to other paths. Even in this book, Autobiography of a Yogi, Paramahansa speaks mainly as a Hindu mystic, but throughout the book, he ties together his beliefs, his ideas with the Bible and with other religious books. Look, I just opened a random page, right? 168. And here he's tying his idea from Sri Yukteswar to the Bible. For the Father judged no man, but had committed all judgment unto the Son. John 5:22. Right? You can see the Bible numbers right there. All the great spiritual teachers I know do not follow a singular religion. They may have a preference for someone like Jesus or Moses or Paramahansa, but they expand their understanding and seek all religion. So I go to churches, to temples. I like to embrace the cultural aspects of religion. I want to tune out the dogma and the fundamentalism, but I believe that it is our duty as spiritual seekers to open our mind to a multitude of religions and not one. Even Gandhi said, I'm a Hindu, and I'm a Muslim, and I'm a Jew, and I'm a Christian, and I'm a Buddhist. So thank you. That was a good question. Let's have more questions. Somebody wrote, what energy do you feel the world needs more right now? It needs disruptive change. It needs Buddha badasses to go and rewrite the system. We have to wash away the last dying gasp of nationalism and white supremacy. I love that this went from a discussion on religion to a discussion on pizza toppings. Somebody asked anything about astral projection. I experienced it once. Haven't been able to replicate it, not consistently. I've even studied at the Monroe Institute, which specializes in astral projection. I believe it's a real thing. I've met members of the U.S. military scientists who take it very seriously. I've experienced it, so I know it's a real thing. It's a lot harder to do, and I haven't really pursued it, to be honest. Somebody said, when will you come to India? I was just in India just a few months back, before the whole lockdown thing happened. I was there interviewing Sri Sri Ravi Shankar for an International Women's Congress in India. Somebody said, how to better read a book. Take Jim Quick's speed reading program on MindValley. I just heard that my uncle completed the program. He went from around 200 words a minute to 700 words in one day. The program is around 6 hours. He did it all, 6 hours in one day. And he was dazzled by how fast his reading speed went up in one day. So check it out. Somebody said, please come to Mexico, to Cancun. You know, this week I was supposed to be speaking in Panama and I think in Mexico. Of course, everything has been turned off because of COVID-19. Somebody said, do you have courses to guide me to become a certified life coach? MindValley has a life coaching division. You'll find it on evercoach.com. So go check out evercoach.com. Esperanza said, do you speak Spanish? I wish, Esperanza. Spanish is such a beautiful language. I've always wanted to learn. I've tried to learn, but I've just never had the time. If I have to focus my time on learning something, it's not going to be languages right now, because I believe within 3 years, we will have universal translators, basically little devices that you put in your ear that will automatically translate any language to you. So I'm so busy, but I'm focusing my learning time on personal growth, because that's how I can best serve my audience right now. A lot of people are asking, when are you bringing Sadhguru to MindValley? His team and my team are already talking. We just haven't figured out what to do together yet. So it's meant to be. I literally just had this conversation yesterday with another member of Sadhguru's team. I'm like, look, I'm in no rush. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Like, I'm not going to push, and neither is Sadhguru. I put out an energetic intention. If Sadhguru is meant to be part of MindValley, it'll instantly happen. If not, it won't happen. There is no pressure on either of our parts. Thank you, Meta. You said you loved a chapter of the book on upgrading your identity. I'd love to know, what did you like about that chapter? Shiva said, do you think life coaching will be a highly paid career in the future? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's growing already. Jordan Peterson. Yeah, I have a lot of respect for Jordan Peterson. I really like the guy. I know he's been going through some tough times recently. I don't agree with everything he says, of course, and but I do like Jordan Peterson. So the speed reading program, go to mindvalley.com/super reading, and you'll find it there. Somebody said, how do you keep believing in yourself? Well, I think I've cultivated a belief that I'm working in unison with a higher power and serving a higher power. And I'm very loyal to what I feel my soul is pushing me to do. But because I'm so focused on that, I feel I already have the most powerful allies on my side. Sri Kumar Rao, the MBA professor, calls it the concept of living and trusting that you are enveloped by a benevolent universe. That's my feeling in life. And so because of that, I always feel safe. I always feel secure. I always feel unfuckwithable. And no matter what's going on, I always know I'm going to be hitting my goals if that's what needs to be. So I didn't get there immediately, but I've been there in the last 1 year. And it's a dramatically different way of living. You live with such peace. Some people might call this concept the concept of surrender. It's a little bit more nuanced than that. Rather, it's a concept of trusting that everything is going to unfold as it should. So if you read chapter 9 of The Buddha and the Badass, I talk about the concept of identity upgrading. I started upgrading my identity to take on that belief using the following identity statement. Why is the universe always unfolding for me in the most beautiful way? So if you try that identity statement, you start evolving into that belief as well. So almost everything that I see about the world, everything that I believe about the world, I implant in myself. So I cover that in chapter 9 of the book. It's not very hard to do. It's a really simple process. All of us are very open to auto-suggestion. Oh, who are your favorite spiritual teachers right now? It's got to be the Reverend Michael Beckwith, Sri Kumar Rao, and Ken Wilber. All of them are in MindValley. Anybody that I absolutely like, I bring on to MindValley. Ken Wilber's new program is going to be on MindValley. I'm so excited about that. And Sri Kumar and Michael Beckwith are already on MindValley. I'm looking at the questions that you guys have sent in. Yes, Michael Beckwith does speak gold. Wim Hof, yeah, I love Wim. He's a really, really, really good guy. Somebody said, what are your favorite biohacking practices? The number one biohacking practice is 10x or super slow training, super slow strength training. 10x is the MindValley version of it. There's a program coming out on it. Rosemary Medal said, dude, received my book yesterday. Why do people call me dude? Is that a thing? What is the book you've gifted the most? So easy to answer, Mogo. The book I have gifted the most is Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. Neil is also on MindValley. His program, Awakening the Species, is beautiful. Somebody said, how old are you? What would you guys guess? MindValley is a monthly subscription, but you can also, it's an annualized subscription, but you can also pay per class. $47. 40. Somebody said, Vishen, your gray hair is disappearing. Bravo. Actually, you're right. It is disappearing. Yes, Yogi Beverly. Conversations with God is a remarkable book. So Dr. Sharon Wins. I am 44 years old. So Pratap said, what chapter would have the most impact on my life? And how does it work for reality? I'm not sure what the question is. But again, the thing about the book is you do not have to read it chapter by chapter. You have to go through the introduction. I give a quick one-paragraph summary of what is in every chapter, and then pick the chapter that best applies to you and dive into that. Yaron, a lot of people are asking about how do you find the right words? How do you start speaking? My mother was an English teacher. I guess that gave me a natural born advantage, didn't it? What's my favorite book currently? So right now, because of the protests going on, it's a book on activism. It's by the Jewish philosopher Adam Kahane, and it's a book inspired by Martin Luther King. It's called Power and Love. It's about Martin Luther King's famous speech at the Southern Baptist Convention on the relationship between power, love, and justice, and how the three forces need to dance with each other so that we can truly function as leaders in the world. Somebody said, you change. I don't know exactly, but you look sexier. Yes, you can reverse your age. I actually teach that in my book. And you can do it through identity statements. Like your mind has a powerful impact over your age. So I can intentionally shift my behaviors, my energy, my health at will. And everybody can do that. I mean, I teach this in the Silver Ultramind system. Somebody said, are you bringing Eckhart Tolle to MindValley? Maybe, if it's meant to be, sure, but I've just never gotten into Eckhart Tolle's words. I don't know why. Just never got into a new earth. And so you got to understand, people, the authors I bring into MindValley are all authors whom I go deep in. I study them. Alan Watts is coming to MindValley. I read his biography. I read all his best books. I started lecturing on Alan Watts. I have to master the author's philosophy. I must be able to connect it. I must, in some cases, the author ends up being like really close friends. For example, Jim Quick, right? We've gone on adventures together to the Malaysian rainforest, to the Amazon rainforest. That's how close I get to many of our authors. I just haven't connected with Eckhart or his work yet. That's not a judgment on him. It's more a judgment on me. I've just not resonated with A New Earth. But that said, it is an amazing book. How do I choose guests for the MindValley podcast? People apply. I have a team reaching out. I have Allison in Miami. She reaches out. She's my head of PR. And that's how I get good guests on. Oh, somebody said, what do I think of Feng Shui? I'm a believer because of Marie Diamond. I wasn't a believer. Marie showed me a couple of things I needed to do to shift around the direction of different objects in my home. The results were so mesmerizing, I actually reoriented my office. I literally moved my workspace to a different room so it would be Feng Shui aligned. That wasn't an easy task, but that tells you how much I believe in Feng Shui, even though I cannot explain it. Feng Shui is on MindValley. Go to mindvalley.com / Feng Shui. Study with Marie Diamond. She is amazing. Amazing. I flew to France and spent a day with her in the south of France, working with her on my energy and on something called past life forgiveness, or karmic healing. That's what it's called. No, not Marie Kondo. I'm talking about Marie Diamond. Two very different people who make you reorganize your home. No, I've never actually connected with Deepak Chopra. I've tried. Too many gatekeepers. What I mean is, I always end up with someone. Deepak has a huge organization, as I do, and it's always someone in this organization that I have to go through, and that's just not my style. I don't have the patience for that. But Deepak and I are connected on email, and again, if the time comes and we're meant to work together, it will happen. The point is, I don't necessarily chase or seek. The right people come to me at the right time. Somebody said, you mentioned spiritual folks. Would you interact with politicians in future? As you mentioned, spiritual folks should be interested in politics. I'm deeply into politics, particularly American politics. If I was American, I would probably be even more into it. And but yes, I help politicians who ask for my help. I help them with the nuances of what it takes to win an election, whether it's dealing with the extreme stress when you're running or with messaging or getting the word out. You might remember Marianne Williamson. So she's been a big supporter of MindValley. So I helped her get into the Democratic debates. We put out tens of thousands of dollars in promotion behind Marianne Williamson to make sure that she got enough, to help her get enough votes so that she could get in the Democratic debate. And I'm proud of her because in the second debate, she did really well. And a lot of people said she was the best speaker at that debate. Somebody said, I love your voice in American politics. Well, I'm not an American citizen, but I do run an American company. I do pay taxes in America. And What happens when America elects a madman like Trump impacts the rest of the world. So yes, I've been very committed to ensuring that people who follow me are able to vote wisely. And I'm going to do everything I can to help get the word out against racist, xenophobic politicians who don't believe in global warming. You know who I'm talking about. So yes, I'm extremely politically active. That is the essence of the Buddha and the badass. Spiritual people should not be on the sidelines. So we're coming almost to the end. We have the last 4 minutes. Thank you, No Fear, for reading chapter 1 and chapter 9. Those are two of my favorite chapters, so I'm really happy. So I want to let you guys know you can get the book at mindvalley.com/Buddha Badass. For if you get 5 copies of the book, my newest program is yours completely free. Okay, so go check it out. If you've read the book, I would love a review. Go to Amazon or Goodreads, leave a review. That would mean so much to me. And thank you for following me and for spending this last 1 hour with me. Thank you, guys. I will see you. Take care.